Hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho. Pleased to announce new sunspots rising in the east. Sunspot 2781 degrades. Forecasts correctly made. Again, not to brag, just citing the facts. And regarding masks, be afraid. No, for real. We don't fearmonger, but we'll talk about it in a later video. First, we're going to talk about the last 3 days of Sunspot 2781. And you can see at the end of the movie here, it's degrading. The trailing sunspot umbrae are shrinking. There is still some probability for an M-class flare. Although this may lose its beta class soon. So that's when I say something to keep an eye on. Well, the pun is entirely intentional. And let's also talk about the radio flux of the 10.7 centimeter variety. Now, the outer solar corona puts out a radio signal in a 10.7 centimeter wavelength, and it's a good proxy for sunspot number. It's now at 90. Having hovered around the 70 line for about 3 years, now it's back up to 90. Solar minimum is indeed over. You can call it. Call it a day. Solar minimum has gone away. The radio flux is way up here. And we're going to see a much higher monthly smooth value next time this gets updated. Let's go to Helio Viewer Movies, as we've got some delightful ones. And this region down here is indeed a sunspot. That'll become Sunspot 2782 today. And it's got one significant umbra. It looks like it's already beta class also, by the way, meaning it has the opposite polarity umbra as well. That would be my best guess. It certainly is a significant sunspot. Next, looking at a close-up of just the southern hemisphere. Allow me to put this out and get off the screen. Next, we've got a great image of Sunspot 2781. Again, that leading umbra, much larger than the trailing umbrae. And there's really not a lot of plasma out there anymore. Chances of a coronal mass ejection have now diminished a lot regarding Sunspot 2781. Sorry to everybody that wants to see the world come to an end today. Very unlikely for any large coronal mass ejection to be Earth-facing from that sunspot. And here's the rising Sunspot 2782 and another active region north of it. And we've included the extreme zoom in and Earth scale for your 171 angstrom viewing pleasure. Today's Smash Lights segment will be separate from the Daily Space Weather. Make sure you look for that. It'll be coming out afterwards. We would invite you to please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/smAshomash. Give Smash staff a raise. Smash staff is the only employee that we have. Give her a raise. She's responsible for all kinds of stuff like sharing the videos on the social media, as well as a lot of website administration and so on. So give her a raise by becoming a patron at patreon.com/smAshomash. We need more ethical women in the mainstream. Also, we are invited to check out smashomash.com/forum. There are all kinds of subjects there, such as cosmology, Earth, and geophysics. There's a free-for-all, including stuff about cycling. And also a section just about the sun. smashomash.com/forum. And you can link to all that at smashomash.com. The social media links are under the arrow there. Also, don't forget to check out the smAsho store. Today's featured product is Smasher Price My First Pandemic in Blaze Orange, because nothing says don't run me over or shoot me like a Blaze Orange shirt. Again, today's Smash Light segment will feature stuff about masks It's a secret as to what it'll be, and hint, it has nothing to do with oxygen deprivation or CO2. If you enjoy the content on YouTube, please press like and subscribe over there. Check out our playlists, press the notification bell so that you know when we put up a video. Today we're not going to talk about the markets, but we would invite you to follow us on Facebook and on Instagram, on Twitch, on Twitter, on BitChute, on Minds, and on Gab. So we're all over the internet. Again, you can find all the links at smAsho.com. So go check that out. And again, don't forget to watch the Smash Lights today. It's a special segment, a regular part of life here at the Smash News Network. If you notice any changes in the branding, well, you ain't seen nothing yet. And today's cosmology segment is just thrown into the daily space weather, as I consider heliophysics cosmology anyway. So let's jump into it. It's going to be another random object. So I've created a quantum dice throw here, and I've come up with 959, one of the most interesting Porsche models. Let's go see what that is at the Neil Gorel Swift Bat X-ray Observatory. Entry 959 is RxJ2135.9 plus 4728, a Seyfert 1 galaxy, which should look great on SIMBAD. Let's check it out. There are the X-ray transients from that galaxy with the catchy name of RxJ2135.9 plus 4728. And we're actually going to go to Aladdin here, which you can link directly from there. And let's see if we can get a good visual here. Let's see what it looks like in infrared. It looks like a pretty distant galaxy, but it is somewhat of what we consider an active galactic nucleus. That's what a Seyfert galaxy is. And it looks like we have some artifacts on there. It's not the St. Louis Arch. Do we see any H-alpha around that galaxy? Nope, no hydrogen alpha out there. How about an infrared? Again, it must be a pretty distant galaxy. That's today's featured object and today's cosmology segment. Next, checking out the real-time solar wind. To see a solar wind density steady over the past 24 hours, around 3 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind velocity very low, 328 kilometers a second. Nothing to write home about there. Next, looking at the KP index, having been pegged at 1 for over a solid 24-hour period. I mean, pegged at 0 for over a 24-hour period. It's the feared KP0 day. Did somebody lose their mind yesterday? Did you lose your mind yesterday? Did you notice health effects from cosmic ray flux? Leave us a comment if you did. Next, looking at geospace magnetosphere movies. And today we're only looking at the pressure, which is very low. Again, we have a fairly consistent solar wind at a low speed and a low density here over the past 24 hours. That's what the geospace likely looks like according to the Space Weather Modeling Framework. We'll look at ground magnetic perturbations next. Here are the changes going on in the Earth's B field right now. That's why we call it geospace delta B. And we don't see many changes in the B field. When we see high solar wind activity, we typically see high levels of magnetism caused by something like, oh, I don't know, protonic induction. Here's the GOES X-ray chart of the past 3 days. And again, notice how I said we're not going to see any M-class flares until at least the 9th. We haven't seen any, period. As we get called, the sunspot would be degrading and would be not in an appropriate angle to hit the Earth with an M-class flare while directly facing the Earth. So in any case, there's the 3-day chart of the X-ray flux. The GOES 16 magnetometer showing us very high lows and a very tight range here. And for you new viewers, the N's and M's mean noon and midnight time for the GOES 16 satellite. And there is probably a heliospheric current sheet boundary crossing in terms of polarity. Let's check it out. Here's the latest image. Top view ecliptic plane field plot. And I would suspect that the Earth is probably already in the other current sheet. If not, it's happening soon. And let's take a look at the B field. And the B field is shown here in the line of sight field plot in blue. Great image of that. Next we'll look at the coronal magnetic field force plot. And by the way, PFSS stands for potential field source surface. Potential field source surface. And not really a lot to convey about that. And how about them electrons? What's going on in the Van Allen belts, you might wonder? Well, not a lot of charging hazards. We're in a normal range here of electron flux. Here's the 1-year chart. Here's the forecast model, and we're expecting slightly lower levels of electron flux here. There is the 3-day chart, and a pretty consistent level of electron flux. Here's a visualization of the entire air column. And we do indeed see some anomalies once again over Canada, North America. And some nighttime anomalies here. You may see some GPS errors at night around the equator as well. Here's just the ionosphere layer. We're showing you 24 hours of the ionosphere. And this is actually pretty anomalous. We're seeing some high frequency zones in the Pacific Ocean, as well as some surprisingly homogeneous ionosphere. Latest image today is from exactly 12 noon Universal Time. We saw an earthquake swarm here over California, it looks like. Let's take a look. In the southern Diablo Range. Anyway, no major quakes. Buildings are built well there. Let's scroll up the list. A deep quake at Papua New Guinea. I think that might have been the largest in the past 24. It's a 5.5 magnitude at depth. A depth of 214 kilometers. And then about 2 hours and 20 minutes later, we see a 4.0 magnitude at 288 kilometers at Argentina. No major earthquakes to report on. Another deep quake happening at Tonga. Volcanoes. Yesterday were upticked. Let's see what's going on today at volcanodiscovery.com. Sakurajima exploded. 7,000 foot ash plume at Sakurajima. 3,500 foot ash plume at Suwanosejima. Sinabung, 15,000 foot ash plume there. Dakono, 7,000 foot ash plume there. Pakaya, effusive explosive eruption going on there. And Strombolian eruptions. Don't get hit by a lava boulder. Rincon de la Vieja in Costa Rica, producing approximately 7,000 foot ash plume. Sangay, flight level 230, 23,000 foot ash plume coming out of the caldera of that. Revenador exploding. Sabancaya exploding. 15,000 and 25,000 foot ash plumes there, respectively. Next, looking at jet streams. Here is the Western world's jet streams. Here are the jet streams, and they are all over the place still once again. None going the wrong way in that part of the world. And let's check out the eastern jet streams. There are the eastern jets, a little bit more coherent. Next, looking at pressure cells on windy.com. Here's where we expect them to be at 12 noon tomorrow Eastern Time. Checking lightning. We see quite a bit of it over the eastern Mediterranean there. No terrestrial lightning in the U.S. lightning mapper showing it, but we're showing several hours here. Looks like some pretty heavy lightning happened in Oklahoma and Iowa. And we've got a bunch of wintry mix over the northern plains again here, and a bunch of snow over western Nebraska and the northern Rockies. There's your U.S. Doppler radar map as the sun rises over the Atlantic. Here's a water vapor map. And you can see this tropical system down here is surrounded by dry air, which is why it's going to behave kind of strangely here. It's sort of locked in there, as dry air is more massive than moist air. And a great series of current streamers coming out of this, where the air is forced to reach an equilibrium due to a massive pressure gradient. So essentially what you're seeing here is a waterfall right here, because this dry air is at a lower altitude. That's a lower level high. It is a low altitude high underneath that tropical system. And basically Cuba has an atmospheric lake over the top of it. Let's look at the northern plains here so that everybody watching from those regions has some concept of where the moisture is headed. The water vapor map includes moisture not condensed onto clouds. It shows you all of the water vapor. And it helps you out when the Doppler radar is not. It's going to take a while for those systems to pull out of there. It's going to sort of stagnate as everything is locked in by dry massive air. Once again, we have these channels of dry massive air. And I'm actually going to look at Pennsylvania for once, as I'm interested in what's going on above my head. We've had it must have been nearly 80 degrees yesterday in Pennsylvania. I actually got a slight sunburn, so that was a delight. And it won't be quite as warm today. I think we're expecting about 70 degrees. And hey, thanks for flying American Smashways. Please don't forget to press like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, or leave us a comment if you're on BitChute. Share our content in your social media. Perhaps become a patron, patreon.com/smAsho. Tell your friends, foes, science noobs, and science pros. And thanks to our viewers. Thanks everybody who watched the live premiere. For flying American Smashways, please keep your head and arms inside the smash plane at all times. I've been Dan, your host, aka smAsho. We've got bonus features, including the colorized magnetogram. And we do still see some significant umbrae there trailing that lead umbra of Sunspot 2781. And there you can see Sunspot 2782 rising. And I already see two significant fields there. When I show you the next frame, you're going to see umbrae. There's 2781. It's 100,000 mile long set of umbrae. And here's the incoming Sunspot 2782. And I do indeed see a South Pole umbra and a North Pole umbra already. That is a beta class Sunspot 2782. Did you hear about it here first? And last but not least, we're going to show you the 1700 angstroms view. It's a 48-hour video here on the SDO. And you can see those trailing sunspots shrinking a little bit there, as well as some activity rising in the east. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink it. If you do, don't drive it, since it'll never be now again. May that solar wind be at your back.